Everybody, welcome back. This is Inside Fitness Radio presents Total Fitness Podcast. My name is Matthew.
I'm Walter.
And of course, we have our good friend John Canlas back on the show, the dietitian and our regular expert that you constantly see his face at least once a month or so. But today we've got some interesting topics. John, why don't you start us off? What are we talking about, Mr. Dietitian?
So, if you're in social media or if you're surrounded by fitness professionals or health professionals, one of the things that come up to me, in my head is should health and fitness, or maybe just fitness, should be the number one priority in your life. We all know how important it is to be healthy, get healthy, exercising. But I wonder what the implication of that is when it comes to be like too obsessive, when it comes to being number one. As you all know, like in our profession, in our jobs, in our journey, especially in social media, we see that constantly because the people that follow us do want that lifestyle or at least have that lifestyle. So I want to get a discussion going on seeing maybe like what the pros and cons are. Is it unhealthy to do that, or is it to the point where is it okay as long as it's not causing harm to other people? And if it's not causing harm, are you causing harm to yourself where it's literally number one? In the dietetics world, in the dietitian world, there are people that have like a type A personality where health, meals, meal prepping, working out is part of that lifestyle. And I sent you that Instagram post, I think just like 10 minutes ago,
Yeah.
about different, if you had a chance to look at it, different age range having like a different perspective on health and fitness. How if you're 35 versus 20, you may have a different perspective in nutrition. Like it can't be number one all the time for like 20 to like 65. So I kind of like want to get a discussion on that.
Well, I can be the bad guy here
Okay.
as the youngest, I guess.
Okay.
No, I mean, sorry. I've said it before. Like my whole coaching program is based around how fitness and health, like selfishness of your health should be number one. Like my reasoning isn't like, oh, you should be so obsessed with how you look and it just should, if you should sacrifice going on nights out if you haven't meal prepped yet or haven't gone to the gym. Like, no, that's not the case. My perspective of it is no matter what age range you are, your health should be coming first to an extent, right? Like you need to be, if you're not working out, if you are not eating well enough, if you are not moving your body throughout the day, if you have injuries and you're not really doing anything to correct those injuries, whether it be back pain or knee issues from years of labor or whatever it might be, you need to do that thing. You need to focus on that thing to actually have a better quality of life. Now, if you don't care to do that, like if you understand the implications of not going after that lifestyle, again, not like a major sacrifice, like fitness is the lifestyle and you have to follow that only, and then everything else trickles underneath it, then that's fine. Like you've taken your stance and you're fine with the way your life goes, whether it be earlier death, heart attack, disease, whatever. Maybe you could live till 90 still, whatever it might be. My grandfather drinking and smoking until he was on his deathbed at what, 87, 88, right? A long life, right? So but at the same time, it's like, what is that quality of life? And that's the message I try to get off to people. I don't want people to understand or misunderstand me and say like, fitness is here, everything else follows underneath. I've done that because I had the ability to, because I was bodybuilding or whatever sport I was doing at the time. It was always fitness was number one, sacrifice friends, sacrifice going out, all that sort of stuff, even relationship issues, right? But that style is definitely not healthy. And I don't think anybody should be in that position. Like even for like, unless you're getting paid millions of dollars in the NBA, like yeah,
but even then, so you're getting millions of dollars, but you are destroying your home life.
I mean, at least you're getting paid to
maybe
do
getting
it.
high all the time and falling out of 2 second-story windows.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff can happen too. I think, for me, fitness is holistic. That involves reading and being involved with other people and being social with other people, because we are social animals and we require that in our life too. Obsession of any kind, says the alcoholic, can destroy your life. You can't focus on one thing and one thing only. And in all honesty, when I first got sober, my focus shifted entirely to that. And then I had no time for anything else because I was always thinking about going to meetings, going to meetings, going to meetings. You have to bring things down to the point where you have room for everything in your life. Fitness is a necessary component to living a good long life, to being able to move, to being able to do those things. But if the only movement you're going to do is running on a treadmill or working a machine to work your legs, then what's the point? You know?
My question is focusing on a good thing, like prioritizing, let's just say for argument's sake, is that something that's really terrible in the grand scheme of things? Because you mentioned, Matt, that used to be your mindset, and then for some reason it shifted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with focusing on such a, let's just say for argument's sake, a good thing like your fitness, because you're doing all of that, is that necessarily quote unquote a bad thing because you're focusing on that, even though in you may be sacrificing your family life for this goal,
Right.
for this this reasoning? Because I see this in other areas of life too, where sometimes you have to go hard on your business.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go hard putting hours at the work. That means staying at 6 or 7 p.m. Because you have a grander goal. Other times,
Right.
the way I see this, a mom could be sacrificing their health for the better,
Right.
so that way their kids can do better. So they sacrifice themselves. This concept of sacrificing relationships, household, your social life for what you perceive as the greater good, is that necessarily like a bad thing?
Well, so see, it's a tricky question to answer because no,
Yeah.
I would like where
And
my
yes.
life has gotten, like you would look at me and you would say no.
Mm.
Right. And I was going to bring this up as both you were, making your points, more so Walter talking about, after you got sober, it was go to meetings, go to meetings, go to meetings. And it was hyper focused almost because, it's almost like one addiction for another. And I've known people in the program that do the same. They go from one addiction to the next, whether it be fitness, gambling, whatever. Right. It's a tricky thing because I think everybody, when you get into a new routine of something that you like, and fitness is a tricky one because it is healthy for you. It is good for you. And it's easy to get sucked into the progress and the glory of it, of seeing your body change.
And we have these people on social media where they put photos and progress
Exactly.
literally 80-90% of the time, and that's where this topic came from. Like,
Right.
is that healthy or not healthy? If you say it's healthy, well, an argument is they're not harming other people, it's for their health. But on the flip side of that, how is the life on the other side of that?
Right. But that's the thing. Are you not harming other people? It depends. Like where I was at, no, I did not get too upset because people that came into my life understood my stance. It was fitness was first.
Did they?
Most people did. But like my past relationship, they understood. I told them straight up, like, this is what I do. This is what I want to do. I am in the gym because at the time I was a trainer, 6 a.m. to like 9 p.m. Like that was my life. So yes, it develops over time and maybe things became a bit more obsessive. And when I got more heavily into bodybuilding, there were certain things in terms of like, I can't go out. I can't go out even to coffee because I'm just so tired. I would play these thoughts in my head of like, I'm too tired to even go out to walk to the coffee shops, grab a coffee. Right. Yes, you can look at my life and say it has developed into a better version because I'm balanced now. Like, I do think some people need that. Like, certain people do. But to say it's healthy is no. I can't say it is healthy to look at be so obsessive that you are constantly judging yourself comparing yourself to others, putting others out of, and yeah, I say be selfish, but to an extent, like be selfish in your health, but being healthy does not require you to be in the gym 4 hours a day, to be meal prepping absolute crazy amounts of food, to be waking up at 4 a.m. every day, having cold showers and reading and stretching for 2 hours, like David Goggins says. Like, that's not health. That's obsession. David Goggins admits that's obsession, right?
Why
So,
do you, oh,
no, go ahead.
why do you think, like, for you, and I was in this phase too, maybe not as extreme as you because I never competed. Why do you think people get so caught up in this quote unquote journey? Because why are people so proud of their progress of doing from average to fat to fit to the point that they become obsessed? Like what made you, like for you personally, what made you obsessed? Is it because like that's how it's always been, or because for some people sometimes, and I've seen this too, they've had a traumatizing experience when they were younger, and they just want to say, I just want to prove to the world that I can do this, and I want to make sure that I can tell myself, yeah, I can do this. There's variations of that.
Yeah.
I feel like it could be an underlying reason why
Yeah.
people are so obsessed to this one,
Yeah.
because there's always a reason why people are doing the same thing, whatever this obsession with, whether they have an OCD, like a psychiatric disorder, or something happened to them when they were younger. Just kind of like get your thoughts on that.
Do you want to answer that first, or do you want me to go?
I can talk about it. To me, I can't say that I ever had. That would be a lie. I don't think my fitness journey was predicated by anything that happened when I was a kid.
Mm,
I think my fitness journey happened as a Peter Pan complex result of not wanting to get old, or at least not wanting to be perceived as old. Therefore, I will do everything I can to prove that age is just a number and that I can do whatever I want to do.
what made you get into that mindset of not wanting to get old? Like what, something must have caught your brain
I'm
to.
an aging gay man. I mean, I'm 65, which means I'm actually around 105 in the eyes of the world. Um, it's partially that, but it's also partially I have been obsessive my whole life
Mm,
about this, that, or the other thing. I have had numerous careers, all of which I push,
mm,
uh, and uh, and I think that's the thing that it hinges on for me. When it becomes obsession, then it becomes a problem.
Right.
If you can maintain a balanced aspect on it, then it isn't a problem. But to say, oh, it's just me, it's not hurting anybody, the proof is not there. The
Yeah.
proof is that if you're pushing people away, if you're not giving time to your loved ones, if you're doing all that, they are affected.
mm.
And like drinking or like drugs, the result on the family members is just as great as it is on the person who's actually doing the thing. Um,
Yeah, I can
and
make it's an interesting point because with fitness too, I'll go into my reasoning in a second, but with fitness too, it's not when you have somebody in your family or your friends telling you this is becoming a little excessive, you're spending too much time in the gym, yada, yada, yada. There's this gym culture around, but it's healthy. So you're bad for me. Screw you. Right. Like there's this idea that if you call somebody out for this healthy thing, it's kind of a toxic mentality or toxic trait that people have. It's like, well, it's so healthy. You're in the gym, you're eating well, and I care about my life. So, but you're not necessarily living. And sure, like, yeah, back when I was bodybuilding, I really did care just about bodybuilding. Like I
Mm.
know the mentality shifts, and back then I did not care to go out. I did not care to have the extra pizza, or I was fine saying no to it. And I still am okay with that. I don't look back in that and say, I wish I did it differently. I wish I lived a little bit more. I don't really, because I appreciated what I did. I appreciate the dedication to what I did. And I think, as Walter was saying, like when it becomes obsession, that's where it starts hurting other people. People are kind of scared to call their family or friends out on this because it is such a healthy thing to do. It's a little toxic in that sense. But with my point, my thing was it was a couple of things. I'm similar to Walter. I'm very obsessive. Like even me right now, taking it easy with my workouts, I'm still in the boxing gym 3 hours a night.
Oh,
That's me
crap.
taking it easy, right?
Yeah.
Because I built my life around doing what I enjoy doing. So to me, you know, that is me pulling off the gas a little bit. And I'll, you know, if I'm tired, I'll take a day off. But that's just the way it is because I have built my life the way I want to live it. The other thing though is I was insecure as hell. So it first started because I saw a picture of like Jay Cutler or something like that. I think it was Jay Cutler or Ziz, one of the social media influencers back in the day. And I was like, damn, they look really good. And it started off just by like, they lift weights, they're strong. And I wanted to play rugby in high school. So I wanted to get stronger. And one of my friends he was starting to lift weights. So I was like, oh, this would be really cool. So it started off that way. But then it started like, oh, there's this girl I like, and she likes not skinny guys. She likes bigger, muscular guys. I was like 115 pounds going into high school, and the guy she was dating was like 160 pounds of muscle. So I was like, there was a little bit of that. It was the insecurity of like, I'm not good enough. And I've even told myself that if people look at me and they think, man, he looks good and would want to come up and talk to me because I'm not like some skinny little twig at 115 pounds, they will understand how good my personality is. That was my thought process. And so yeah, it started off with that, and then obviously the insecurity started when you actually get into the culture, especially back in the day when I started getting into it. That was when Instagram and Facebook and all that were just popping off, and there was so much bullshit, and there was so much like you don't have a Joey Swoll the way you do now. I'm not sure if you've seen him on TikTok, but he calls out everybody for being assholes to other people in the gym. We didn't have Joey Swoll back in the day. Joey Swoll back in my day, I don't want to call him out, but he was the guy scamming people with shreds. And he was the one that was like posting super crazy videos and photos of him like lifting and trying to get girls and this and that. And it was just like, that was what I grew up on. So yeah, there was a ton of insecurity and confidence issues. And then it developed into mental health issues and all that. And my obsession, and this is where it did get back, is my obsession did turn into body dysmorphia, which was already on top of depression and anxiety. And that body dysmorphia was like, I would go into the gym and I would feel good because I'm like, oh, this is getting me to my goal, and I'll beat my body dysmorphia at some point. But then I'd stop working out and I come out of the gym and the body dysmorphia was still there. To the point where I think I've mentioned, if I haven't mentioned to you, bombshell alert, I wanted to kill myself. Right. So I'm fine talking about it now. There's no issues anymore. But there was points, and there was a lot of points where it was like, yeah, I would go to the gym to avoid thinking about anything and trying to off myself, to the point where like I'd get out of the gym and I was just stronger feelings for offing myself. So it does get a little like that is, and that's what I mean when I say unhealthy, that is unhealthy. Right. But you would look at me from the outside and you're like, damn, muscular guy, strong as hell, eats super clean, has great lipids, cholesterol, his body is super healthy, but his mental health is fucked.
Do you think that people that are obsessive with their fitness, in your experience, do you think they have something mentally going on? Because if when they're too obsessive,
Oh yeah.
it's not just being healthy.
No. I don't think I've ever met a single person. Have you?
I have not.
Yeah.
People that are, in my observation, people that are super anal about stuff, working out, meal prep, in my experience and working with people and just observing them, they tend to have, like, they were born with a little obsessive personality, depression, anxiety, a combination of that. And then something for me personally is when I was younger, I was teased because I was really skinny. I mean, those either way, those things can really manifest themselves, which is why I started weight training. I was teased by family members and friends that was skinny.
Yeah.
I could never, I mean, I was a little kid. I couldn't go obviously to the gym. So when I had the money to afford a gym, I would really become kind of obsessive with it, because I was really teased that I was skinny. 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 Do you have worms in your stomach? Why
Oh,
how
I've
come
heard those before. Yeah.
how come you're not eating enough? Why are
Yeah.
you doing this? You're not, all those variations added up became just like a motivation to push myself at the gym. I didn't have any, you know, mental health issues that pushed me to have these negative thoughts in my head.
Mhm.
But it was a feeling of being inadequate, that my body wasn't good enough, even though all the lab health markers were.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that too, because I was heavily teased. I was bullied for two reasons, especially in high school. I was super skinny, obviously. And then I was also in fashion design. Like I really enjoy fashion design. That's what I went to school for originally before I switched over and started doing all the fitness stuff. So it was a 2-for-1 of being skinny and the gay slurs that were thrown my way, which I didn't care about. I couldn't care about that. But people would start combining the two and be
Mm,
like, I don't know if I can say this, like the skinny is the T.
F word.
Yeah, I'm not, thank you. The skinny him,
what is it?
the F word, but it was
Faggot.
like yeah, there you go. He can say
I'm allowed.
it. So I would get that all the time, and people would like be teasing me on my weight. I remember this, and this was when it like really kicked in, was like I think it's like grade 7 or 8. The girl that I actually liked, I was sitting in front of her in class, and then her and her friends like stroked my back because my spine was showing through my shirt. Like I was that skinny that you could see my spine kind of. They're like, oh my God, bro, it's so skinny. And that's where it started. That's where
Mm,
it originally started with like, and the thought of like, well, if I want to get this girl, I'm going to have to be bigger. And it's so funny now because I look back at this and the people that made fun of me for being so skinny and the girls that turned me down for being skinny, man, do they do with 180 when they saw me. Even now, like I'm not even close to I'm 40 pounds down from what my heaviest, most muscular was. And people still are like, wow, dude, you got in so much shape. Like, how did you do it? Like, I've had people come to me for help. I had one guy who bullied me pretty badly in high school who, not like crazy bad, but he came back to me after and he was like, hey man, like you look great. Like, how do I get to your point? Like, how do I do this? Can you help me out with the workout routine? Part of me was like, screw you, you're an asshole. And the other part of me that is like, you're a bigger man. I helped him out, and give me
you
money.
want, okay, so you helped them out?
I helped him out. I made him pay me for it, but he helped him out. But
Okay.
that's the thing. It's like you get to this point now where you are balanced or you do have the right head on your shoulders because the obsession, if it becomes a problem, which for most people it does, and I think Walter can talk to this, the obsession that you have, it drives you to a healthier alternative where you do have to look at your life as a whole and understand where are these triggers coming from? Why am I the way I am? And how can I live a better life? Right? My triggers were the body dysmorphia mainly. And it was me going to therapy for 2 years and figuring out like, why do I want to kill myself over the way I look? And it took 2 years to get to the point of me being like, I can't even answer that question. That would be a whole other podcast to answer that question. But yeah, it took so long to get to that point. And now that I got to that point, I'm like, I'm looking back. I'm like, I looked so good back then. Why the fuck did I care so much about that? Right. So it's just, again, it's that mental health, that bad headspace you're in. And again, Walter, you could talk to
Yeah.
this probably, right?
Well, I do have to say this first, and you and I have discussed this in the past. I think we should not be discussing bodybuilding and fitness and health at the same time
Yes.
because we know that if you're at a competition level, you are not living a fitness lifestyle.
Yeah.
You are being completely obsessive about everything
Does
and
that
every
count as
inch.
a profession, like professional power lifter, professional bodybuilder, professional boxer?
Yeah. But I think
I think it's worse with bodybuilders. Am I
bodybuilders is the
wrong?
worst of everybody. Bodybuilders. I've known a couple of strongmen and powerlifters. I'd still say bodybuilders are the worst.
Well, strongmen and boxers don't get obsessive about body fat percentage.
No,
They want to be
exactly.
as fit as possible. They want to be able to
Strong
do
and
their
yeah.
job, right? And if a strong man is carrying extra body fat, so what? What is he lifting?
But it's
70
also,
pounds.
but
It's a
yeah, but
beauty pageant.
yeah, that's it. Bodybuilding is that beauty pageant. You know, we piss people off for saying that. I'm like, okay, then what is it? If it's not a beauty pageant, what is it? Like, yes, I get it. It's a competition, but you're being judged on how you look. That's all it comes down to. There's
Yeah.
5 criteria. Mass and aesthetic and leanness and all that stuff is like the most important. So you're telling all these like, and this is the thing, you got guys like Chris Bumstead who have ushered in this whole new age of like 18-year-olds or younger to go into bodybuilding. Like, and so up here in Canada, the one good thing that really did come out of the CPA is what the association is called. They've actually put an age limit, so you can only compete after I think you're 18 or 19 now. Before you could compete at any age, and there was kids as young as like 15 or 16 taking gear, jumping up on stage because they would look at like, man, it happens in the States still. I think the NPC also changed the ruling, but it's like there was kids like the teen bodybuilding in the US. If you look back in the day, I'm not sure what it's like now, but you look back in the day, some of these guys that were winning looked like 35-year-old men, and then it would be like so and so, age 16. And it's like, how much gear is this person taking? And that is when it becomes a really big issue.
That and getting the body fat down to the point where you have so little that everything does look like,
and it's not healthy.
Auschwitz-y.
Like, can we say that?
I just did.
You just did. But like, yeah, man.
Starvation.
Yeah, and I mean, you could, as a dietitian, you can talk about low body fat percentages are not healthy. Like being at 5%, and these kids will be like way too much muscle and way too little body fat. And they're also going through puberty. Like it's not a good combo. And then you get people in their mid 20s to late 30s, all the way through their late 30s who are doing the same thing, man. And it's just like years of stress on your body is just not good for you.
It's just definitely not good. And I see this, this extremism in a lot of, unfortunately, dietitians too, because dietitians tend to attract health and fitness minded women.
Right.
Majority of dietitians are 90% white women. And in these populations, a large portion of them are very health conscious minded. And I see this over and over because a lot of dietitians I follow. And I would also argue they don't have to compete in boxing, body, any to be really obsessive. So for those people that are listening to this, I know for you, Matt, you were able to change from obsession to a more balance. How does someone recognize if it's obsessive, and how do you like step out? Because sometimes if you're obsessed, you don't know you're obsessed. Someone has to kind of like pull you out of that. How do you get out of that?
Walter should answer that question. Because
step one,
it's literally you have to hit rock bottom.
Yeah, you have to hit some kind of bottom. You have to realize what's going on. And I mean,
do you hit a bottom when it comes to fitness over being obsession with fitness? Like, what was the bottom for fitness?
But the bottom for fitness isn't fitness; it's the mental side of things. It's the mindset, or it's the broken relationship. Right,
but it can also be the torn quad.
If you look at like do you know Colin Von Moger by chance? The Australian bodybuilder. Have you ever heard of him? No,
I referred to him earlier when I talked about falling out of second story.
Yeah, so yeah, that anecdote that Walter was using, this top of the game. He was Arnold 2.0. He was starting to star in movies. Tore his bicep first. Kind of went off the deep end with recovery, but he started getting better. And then he tore his leg and his bicep again. And life just spiraled out of control from him. So that side of fitness, because it was technically fitness related, because his whole life was fitness. And he felt, from what I've heard from interviews and what he's talked about, it seemed like he didn't really have much else outside of fitness. Like fitness is his lifestyle. So
yeah.
And it's like you get to the point where you take away the one thing. And it's the same. Like, why do so many... I'll use boxers as the example. Like, why do so many pro boxers, when they have to retire, when they can't fight anymore, kind of go off the deep end and just destroy their lives, start turning to drugs or whatever, right?
I saw that with a story with Ricky Hatton.
Yep.
Oscar De La Hoya. Like they said, boxing's all they know, and when they retire, it's like their world is just
upside
down. They have no other thing outside of boxing, and I see
exactly. And I think it's the same way. Fitness, work, any of those things. If you are a workaholic who puts in 15 hours a day, and then for whatever reason you have to stop working, and you have made no plans for what you're going to do with your life when you retire, for example, you're stuck. You're rudderless, I think is the best word to use. You don't know where you're going, what your purpose is, any of that stuff. And it takes a great deal of introspection and to rediscover yourself. And I think if we're talking fitness, one of those, that has to be a component of it. It has to be, how can I be more social? How can I change? Each piece of the pie has to have its balance for me to be a balanced human being. And if all I am is fitness, then something's missing emotionally, socially, all those other things, right?
It's like if I were to ask you, John, outside of being a dietitian, like this is the question I ask almost. It's like when you say, "Hi, I'm John, a dietitian," it's like, is that it though? Because there's obviously more to you. And it's like, okay, what are those things? And that's kind of the thing. Would you be heartbroken if you woke up a year from now and being a dietitian wasn't what people knew you for? It was being, I don't know, maybe the guy who has better calves than even Walter, I'd say.
Yep. No
Sorry,
training at all.
That's not possible.
But no, like you get my point, right? Like you wake up one day and that was the thing. I thought going from being the bodybuilder to not being the bodybuilder, like I thought I would switch and it would be a hard transition. It wasn't. And that's the thing, as Walter said, like you have these other things that you have in your life that are who you are. You aren't just John the dietitian, right? And so, I mean, we could even put that answer back on you. Like, how do you get through that? Like, how do you, maybe not because you were obsessed the same way we were, but how did you just develop as that person who was this well-rounded, well-balanced, and was able to kind of figure that out on their own without having a rock bottom?
Actually, for me, it was having a conversation with my girlfriend on spending too much time at the gym. And, I've always I owe this to Chris and Eric too, because there was one point where all I wanted to do was lift weights and work on my business. And then I took a couple of one-to-one sessions actually, because they always give us an option. If you want to do one-to-one, just hit us up. So I took a couple of that to make me realize that this got to be more to me than just my entrepreneurship and my weightlifting. And that, talking to Eric and Chris, if you guys are listening to this, thank you a lot.
Keep in mind, they're business coaches that we've all had in the past. That's context for Chris and Eric. But yeah, continue.
I forgot about that. I forgot about to do that. Yeah. So it took a number of conversation and just back and forth email. And then there's my girlfriend yelling at me to kind of realize, hey, you know what? I can take my days off too. It doesn't mean I'm a failure when it comes to, trying to improve my physique or entrepreneurship. It's not like I have a specific deadline with any of this, and then, rinse and repeat over and over our conversations again. I finally kind of catch that. And like you said, for you, it took you 2 years of just solid talking and therapy. For me, it's this constant repetition of just listening to their voices and my girlfriend kind of just talking me through all of that to make me realize there's got to be more to life. Because what if for some reason I just want to, I don't want to do this anymore. If that day ever happens, I don't want to just go crazy and lose a big chunk of my life and have no other thing to fill it up, So it was just a lot of conversation around that.
Yeah. Exactly. You made a really good point there where you said, taking a day off. And I think the biggest thing people forget to realize, like, health and fitness also includes taking a rest day.
Yeah.
Right. And hopefully people listening understand it's not just health and fitness that I'm talking about, taking a day off the gym. It's taking a day off. Right. And that's the thing. It's not going hard all the time. It's not being obsessive. Health and fitness is being able to understand, if you're burning out from work, how do you step back and assess the situation and audit where you're at and make changes to actually move to a healthier, more balanced lifestyle. And that's the thing. Everybody's going to have these issues where shit will just blow up, whether it's a work thing, a relationship, finance, the gym, whatever. You're going to miss some days. Stress is going to happen. How do you take a step back and say to yourself, okay, let's attack this in the right angle so I can have this balance. Yes, there's going to be a little bit of stumbling along the way. You can never have this perfect life. Even when life is going good, it's going to go bad. It's going to be rocky, but that's okay. Being balanced and being healthy, as Walter was pointing out, is understanding how can I actually maintain and bounce back as quick as possible without hitting rock bottom. Instead of hitting rock bottom, maybe I'm just in the shallow end, right? Like that's all it is. And a lot of people forget that, right?
Got to be careful about that. I dove into a rock in the shallow end once. Yeah, I think it's about finding balance. And for me, and I think for a good deal of the world, the lockdowns were kind of like the bottom as well, because you suddenly had a large chunk of your life taken away. Just going outdoors was taken away. And who am I? What am I doing? So you can chill on Netflix forever if you want, but I mean it drove me in different directions.
Yeah.
And opened me up to a lot of things. And I think that's what we all need a little bit more of. If you start going, it's only this thing, it's only this thing, that's where the problems come in.
I had a follower from my Instagram that's when there was a lockdown, that was her only coping skill. And this person almost committed suicide because that was her thing, going to the gym and weightlifting. And this person seems to have a obsessive personality disorder. And which, to your point, it's important to have a diversified life to balance it out, because like this person, if that is your only way to relax, literally the only way, and you have no other way to relax, and that is taken away, like in the case of pandemic, what will you do? For this case, for this person wanted to commit suicide, and that's it's a little extreme, but
But there was a lot of that.
I knew a lot of people like that, a lot of clients that were coming crying down the phone to me about that, right? Like, it's what it is. It's because it's not just the gym they were probably complaining. It was everything. Like, they have to sit with their thoughts at home, possibly in a 1-bedroom, tiny little apartment, right? So it was bad. And it's like, how do you, at the end of the day, you are technically alone, right? Like, yes, we have friends and family and girlfriend, boyfriends, whoever, partners to distract us. But at the end of the day, you are alone with your thoughts, and not having a peaceful mindset is going to be really bad for your health, mental or physical, right? Whether that is you turn to drinking or drugs, or you turn to self-harm or whatever it is. And then also just that negative self-talk is just going to be so freaking bad for you. Like, you cannot have a good day. Like, when you wake up and the first thing you think, you look in that mirror and you're like, life shit, I'm shit, fuck this. You go out and you project that to the world, and it's going to throw it right back in your face. You will look at every bad little tiny inconvenience and situation in the worst light, and life is going to suck. Now, can you tell somebody who's going through that, suck it up? No, they have to get to that point on their own, right? And almost going back to your original point, you sent us that video, that 10 minutes, or like 10 minutes before we started this, about, a 20-year-old versus like a 35, 45, whatever. I think the 20-year-old trainer, as good as they could be, they don't have the life experience to be able to say to somebody who's 45, look, this is where balance occurs. Like, the 45-year-old client probably has way more balance and health in their life than the 20-year-old trainer, because they have yes, they might be stressed from work. Yes, they might be stressed from family, but they, at some point in their life, maybe they've lost their way a little bit, and that's why they need that accountability. They have probably understood what a balanced life is, and that's why they're going to somebody to help them attain that balance. But the 20-year-old trainer or the 25-year-old trainer who has never actually understood that, they don't have kids, they don't have that busy, crazy life, they're just all fitness 10 hours, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
They are not going to be able to help that person as well as somebody who has actually experienced it before.
It's hard to relate. If you can't relate, it's hard to really speak on it.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I still hate telling people my age, because I got clients who are like you know, anywhere from 40, like my oldest client is 75. He knows how old I am. Like we started training 5 years ago, 6 years ago almost now. But back then he thought I was like late 20s. So he thought it was a bit more relatable because like yeah, I've had my fair share of experiences and I guess matured young, whatever that means. But yeah, it's like I did not
You
want to
were
tell.
big.
I was also big. That was the other thing. Yeah, I kind of had the intimidating aura around me, and people are like, "Oh." Plus, I had the beard. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, people would come to me and like, "Oh my God, you're." I would start to. I was like, "You're 21. What the fuck?" But you're like, you've actually. And I was like, "Yeah, but if I told you how young I was 6 months ago, would you have actually listened to half the shit I was saying to you?" They're like, "No, probably not, because you're immature and stupid." But I was like, "But I'm not." And they're like, "Yeah, surprise." So there is obviously, yes, there is the outliers. There are the exceptions, but it's still the same thing. Am I going to be able to relate to the 45-year-old mother with 2 kids at home? No. Can I sympathize with some of her issues based on my experiences? Yeah. But am I going to understand why she can't meal prep even though she has 2 free hours on a Sunday? Like, yes, I can sympathize with that, but it's also like, to me, it's just like, yeah, before back in the day, I would have been like, but you have 2 free hours, just do it. Like, why is this so hard? You got 2 free hours. Yes, because maybe you've only had 2 hours of sleep. Your kids have been yelling and screaming all day. You're exhausted.
Yeah.
All you want to do is sit down, have a coffee, and watch TV for 1 hour or 2 hours before your kids wake up again and start screaming more. Right? Like that side of me back then, 18, 19, I didn't necessarily get it.
You have a more balanced perspective now that you've gone through seasons.
Well, it's also, I mean, I've had a lot of clients who have helped me realize that. One in particular, actually, when it came to motherhood, very good friend of mine, and she really did help me understand what, especially a single mother will go through. And yeah, it is changing seasons basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure we could
It's
all say
it's
that.
it's interesting. I keep getting back on the same topic. This is very weird. Um, Changing seasons, okay, yes, but also having that thing about you which is similar to the other person, you know?
Yes, yeah,
So talking about alcohol again, I mean, it's nobody can tell an alcoholic or a drug addict not to drink, not to drug. But someone who has succeeded at stopping can say a lot more to them because of the fact that they share so many common experiences.
Mm.
So a trainer my age, training someone my age is a lot easier than a trainer your age, training someone my age. It's
yeah.
not impossible. It depends on the person, but that commonality is what's going to bring a lot to the fore in terms
Mhm.
of the ability to train.
Mm.
And I think uh, I'm going to get personal here, Matt. I would think that your relationship with your parents
Mhm. Oh
gives you a
God,
better understanding of people their age, and therefore
yeah,
you're able to work with people their age more than if you were like, I hate my parents and they're
yeah,
awful, and right?
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I
So
was like, oh God, therapy session. No, you're absolutely right. It's like, again, my experiences, like my parents are incredible. The way I was raised, how they push me, like all that is absolutely true. And I was going to say something, but John, like culturally, even like the clientele you have, and especially in South Cal, like there culturally is more diverse in certain aspects. Like
Hmm.
a lot more people would probably come to you if they are a man, or maybe if they are like, like, oh, he's late 20s, early 30s, like, yeah, I'd rather go to John, right? Maybe not the 75-year-old woman who's looking for a dietitian, right?
Yeah, whenever I have those clients, they usually say, "Oh, I saw you and I saw your picture and I saw you do this and you're Filipino, so I know you can relate to me how I can stop
Yeah,
eating rice because I have a hard time not eating rice, and that's a real thing, you know.
yeah.
When
oh,
it's
absolutely.
culturally ingrained in you, you can't just tell them stop eating rice. Like that shit doesn't work, you know. So you have to be more. I guess, sensitive and approach it around it
Mhm.
and kind of compromise with them. But I do get a lot of those clients like, hey, I want you to work with me because of you're very relatable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've had clients turn me down for somebody else because they thought they'd be more relatable, which is totally fair, right?
Yeah.
I mean, surprisingly, I actually get more women than I get men. Um, but then again, I've asked my clients, I'm like, why do you? And they're like, I just don't like training with a female client because sometimes they relate too much to me. So it's like, it's this weird catch
Getting too
22.
close. Getting too-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, at the end of the day, like there's all these things that you typically like, if I were to get a trainer, it'd be somebody who back then it was who I wanted to look like. It was somebody who was a bit younger. They actually had some similar viewpoints on training and nutrition as me. And that's what I went to. Obviously, I understood training and nutrition enough that I could do that. But again, most people don't. So they're kind of blindsided by these flashy muscles and a charming smile from these young 20-year-olds who are like, come train with me. Sign this $10,000, please. Thank you.
It's a high ticket offer.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But no, train with one of us three. We're great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's still a high ticket offer.
Yeah, there you go. But
I think there's something to be said for just getting along well with your trainer. At this point, for me, there's more specialization. Like I need a good swim coach, I need a good running coach because I'm aiming towards a triathlon, and then I will need to get that one who can teach me the transitions between each of the three, right?
yeah, exactly right. So it's but that's it. I mean, you go for who you feel is relatable, right? And I do
Absolutely.
wish people this day and age, like again with whatever it is, like if you're going to up here, we have the Good Life gym, one of the biggest chain gyms. So if you're going to a Good Life, like do your research on somebody, like really talk to them. Like a trainer is somebody, especially if you're going to have them for like anywhere from 6 months to a year. I've had clients for 6 years, 5, 6 years, right? So you want to make sure you're doing your research about this person because they are going to be a pretty big aspect of your life. Now, if you have somebody who's basically telling you, and keep in mind, I knew a
Chicken
trainer
and
like
rice.
this, chicken and rice, and here's a needle. Like, it's like, oh, you want to bodybuild? Oh, you got to do this. No, you don't. You don't need to do that, especially when
No.
you've only trained for 6 months. But again, people will go to what they want to hear. People will think that to get big, they have to use gear. People will think to diet, they have to do 0 carbs. And we may not be the flashiest. Like we try not to lie to people because it's wrong. But I have never told a client they need to do 0 carbs to lose weight. And they're like, what? And I've had people like turn away from or tell me that part of the reason they didn't actually want to train with me was because I was like so straight up with them. And I'm like, okay, cool, I guess. I mean, we wouldn't have
Right?
related then because I'm not going to bullshit you. And if that's your personality, you just want the easy way out. Like, yeah, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you like life is like this. I was talking to a client yesterday. This is going to be a bumpy ass ride. The first 2 to 3 months, especially because of what this gentleman does, like it's just crazy, crazy schedule. I was like, I don't give a shit if you miss 5 of like 5 of the gym days and only go twice. I could care less. You have already improved. For one, you signed up for a gym. You are drinking more water. You're walking more. You actually have made time twice a week for the gym. And to me, that is good enough for now. But I also know other trainers or your Wes Watson type, David Goggins type, that's like, no, you're a piece of shit. How dare you not spend 14
You're a
hours in the gym?
loser.
Yeah, right? Like these guys that do 75 hard, it's like you have to do 2 workouts a day. You have to do
Oh
this.
gosh.
And it's like,
75 hard.
bro, it's just, no, you don't. You really don't. And I understand the implications because some people are that type of person where they need that obsession, they need that drive. And how long is it going to last? Realistically, people can say, look at David Goggins. Okay, but he's like
He
a
has
one.
built the career out of it.
That's it. You're not
That's
His
trying
the
to build a
thing.
marketing, that's
career.
his marketing angle.
It's
Yeah, you're
his
like,
job as well as his fitness.
Like
Yeah.
you're an accountant
Right.
from Ontario, Toronto, Ontario. You're an accountant. You don't need to be a Navy SEAL training 75 hard, wake up at 3 a.m. You know, like you need 8 hours of sleep. You have 2 kids at home. Like chill out a
Unless your
little
name is Rich Roll.
bit. It's too funny, man. But yeah, I don't know. It's just we could go on for hours about this, but I think our point has been made for the most part.
Yeah.
I agree.
Any last points there, John? Or
I think we had a good conversation on what is obsession and why obsession on a good thing is not a good thing, which
Mm.
is kind of weird of saying it. And ultimately, whatever thing you're trying to focus on, ultimately is going to be needing balance and obsessing in one thing, whether it's fitness, health, nutrition, business, work, it's definitely unhealthy. Even if it has quote unquote good for you,
Mhm.
ultimately it is not good people around you and your mental health. So I like that. And hopefully anyone listening to this can appreciate the fact that you don't need to be obsessed with weightlifting, go to the gym, meal prepping, hitting your macros, 90% and 80%, 100% of the time to be healthy, even just having this general proximity and health, going to exercising, moving your body, doing all these little basic things is healthy.
I'm going
Exactly.
to do a little calculation here for people. So 365 divided by 70. If you're trying to do 70%, get in the gym 70% a year, even if you're just being, 70% of your best, I believe that is, how many days is that? That is about
102.
191 or something days. Like
Really?
100, I think, is it? I don't know. I'm
No,
bad at math.
365. I mean, that's closer
Oh,
to
yeah,
like
sorry, you're right.
40%.
Minus 70%.
Dude.
So 365 minus what, 110-ish? So
Yeah.
250, sorry. Jeez, I was
Yeah.
off. 250 days. I finally pulled out my calculator.
Okay.
256 days of the year. So you can miss 110 to 120 days of the
That's a lot.
year. A lot of days, and you could still be
Yeah.
at 70%.
That's still excellent. That's
That's
still really good.
incredible.
Yeah.
That's
Still
a
good.
lot of
That gives
days.
you all that free time to do other things and have hobbies and a life.
Exactly. I wouldn't recommend a consecutive 110 days, but
Yeah.
Weight lift
And then
or
take a vacation.
but my coach told me no. But yeah, you could miss a week, you can miss a day or two here. Like, get over yourself. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's that. As always, John, thank you so much for coming on here. It's
Thank you.
always a refreshing conversation when you show up. As always, guys, you know where to find him. John Canlas RD right below. His link will be in the bio as well. Go train with him. He's awesome. He knows his stuff. He knows his stuff
Absolutely.
really well. So if you are looking for a dietitian, you're looking for somebody to look after your nutrition, all that, especially because you specialize with diabetes as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So if you think your A1C levels are getting a little too high, you want to kind of combat that, he's the guy to go to, right? And he's Filipino, so if you want to eat rice, eat rice.
There you go, man. I'm a rice specialist.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Well, there's your niche right there.
Yeah, the rice specialist.
Um,
Yeah, that's a new program.
I do have something I have to say,
Mhm.
if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Dear Mr. Rock, I talked about you a few weeks ago, and I said that you had just turned 60 because I read in the magazine you just turned 60. So I reread the magazine because it seemed really wrong, and I was very wrong, and you just turned 50. So happy birthday to The Rock, and I apologize for that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Also, this thumbnail, like the title of this podcast, I'm pretty sure is going to be "Dietitian Says Health and Fitness is Bad."
There you go.
Yeah.
That's how you get the audience.
That's how you get the
That's
views
it.
for it, right? Anyways, all
Uh,
right.
Click,
Thank you,
click,
John.
click, click.
Thank you,
you.
John. As always, hopefully we'll get you back on soon. But thank you for coming on. Stay safe, guys.
Stay breezy.
Take care.
Yep.